Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. My name is Simon Calvert and I'm from ANZ Wholesale Digital. We manage and maintain ANZ's institutional digital channels, including ANZ Transactive Global. And I have the pleasure of presenting this training webinar, which will focus on payments in ANZ Transactive Global. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that I'm joining you today from the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. I also acknowledge the traditional owners of the various lands on which our attendees are joining from. I pay my respect to elders, past and present, and to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. Our training webinars are designed to provide you with information and resources that can help unlock the full potential of ANZ Transactive Global across all of its capability, including cash management, data insights, loans, commercial cards, trade, and markets. These are services that ANZ has brought together in what we like to call an omni-channel digital banking experience. This essentially means a single integrated channel for all your banking requirements. Today, we will be looking at payments and specifically focusing on some of our newer features that you may not be aware of. If you have joined today looking for information on some more common payment tasks, such as creating and managing the various payment types in Transactive Global, then I would encourage you to watch the recording of a previous payments webinar where this was discussed. We are recording today's webinar. That, as well as today's Q&A, will be made available for future reference or to share with any of your colleagues who couldn't join us live. These will be added to ANZ Digital Services Help in the coming days, which is also where you will find our previous webinar recordings. And I'll show you how to access that at the end of today's session. If you have any questions to ask, please do so using the Microsoft Teams Q&A function. And some of my colleagues will endeavour to run the call today with me, will endeavour to respond to as many of these as we can throughout the session. Finally, I do need to let you know that today we will be using a demonstration environment of Transactive Global. It is reasonably close to what you see as a customer, but there will be some minor differences. So I will call those out as I become aware of them, but please keep that in mind if you're trying to follow along. Okay, let's get into some of the newest features that we have added to Transactive Global. The first new feature we'll look at today is periodic payments. This is available for Australia and New Zealand accounts and allows you to set up and manage a series of recurring payment instances based on a set schedule. After a schedule has been created, a payment is created approximately 7 days before the value date and will be available to view and approve in the current payment screen like any other payment. To access periodic payments, we go into the payments menu and then we click on periodic payments. Let's have a look at how to create a periodic payment in Transactive Global. There are two methods of creating a periodic payment, either from scratch or by using a payments template. These are relatively similar, except creating from a template will pre-populate some of the payment information. Today, we will focus on creating an instruction from scratch. Here I'm on a summary screen for periodic payments, and this has the same look and feel as any other grid screen in Transactive Global. Key information that I can see on this screen is the payment name, description, status, and you can see here that we have payments in various statuses, including draft, pending approval, and active. You can also see the schedule details, such as the next schedule date and the last schedule date when a payment was processed, as well as frequency. To create a new payment from here, we're simply going to click on New, which will take us to the Create Periodic Payment screen. From here, we'll click on Periodic Domestic Payment. I'll use the drop-down to select the funding account where I want the payment to be generated from. The payment method in this instance is direct entry because this site is funding from an Australian account. If you're from New Zealand or choosing a New Zealand account, you would see domestic here. Now let's look at the repayment recurrence details. Monthly is the only repeats frequency available. From the repeats every drop-down list, this is where you select the interval for the payment. This is currently on every 1 month, but I can choose 2 for bi-monthly, 3 for quarterly, and so on. The repeats on drop-down is where you select the day of the month that the payment will create, that the instance will create for. Here, so I can select any day of the month. Just to note, if I select 29, 30, or 31, a warning message will display. It doesn't show in the demonstration environment today, but it will advise that you have selected a day that is not valid for all months. I would then use the calendar to select my start date. For my end date, you can see I have two options, by or after. So I can choose to have this end either by a given date or after a set number of occurrences. And set number of occurrences goes from 1 to 60. In this case, I will choose a by, and I would like this to end. I just want the one payment, so I'm going to choose this to end by Christmas. The final occurrence option is to choose how to manage non-business days. Again, noting that this is for Australia only, it's not applicable for New Zealand. So I can choose to have it either process on the previous business day, so where this date falls on a weekend or a public holiday, or I can choose to process on the next business day. Here we'll leave it for previous business day. The next heading is periodic payment details. Again, we're looking at Australian payments, so these fields may vary for New Zealand. Here we will need to enter the following mandatory information: a periodic payment name and description. These help to identify the schedule that we're creating. A periodic payment reference. Now, this is an identifier that you want to have appear as part of the narrative on the receiver's account statement. So, statement narrative, this is a longer payment description that will also appear on the receiver's statement. So, it might be what it's for. We also need to choose a direct entry user ID. Ignore that it says direct debit ID in here. This would be a 6-digit number for unique to your organisation. If you want to prevent other users from adding new beneficiaries or editing details of existing beneficiaries for this payment, you could select the Disable Beneficiary Changes box here. We now come down and we come to enter beneficiary details. So this is who the payment is going to pay to, noting that you can set up an instance for one or multiple beneficiaries. Here we will click Add, and it will populate a row in the beneficiary table. I can either choose from an existing beneficiary, so this is drawing from the beneficiary address book in Transactive Global. You see when I select a beneficiary, an existing beneficiary, it automatically populates their account details, as well as the reference that we entered up here in the periodic payment details section. All I need to enter from here is the amount. And that this payment would be good to go. I can add and remove additional beneficiaries by clicking Add. In this case, I'm going to choose to add a new beneficiary. So here at the Add New Beneficiary pop-up box appears, and it will allow me to enter in the beneficiary details. So I'd add their name. This is Australia, so we need a BSB and account number. And I could tick the box to choose to add a beneficiary to this address book when that payment's submitted, so that way the beneficiary appears in that drop-down next time. I'm going to remove that beneficiary now. Note that you can also choose to filter. So if you have many beneficiaries in this list, I can filter, so I can easily find my beneficiaries by using the filter option. Once you're comfortable with the beneficiaries and the details that you've entered on this screen, we click Review and Submit. This gives you an opportunity to double check the details that you've entered, and then we click Submit. We get a confirmation message to say that this payment has been submitted successfully and it is now pending approval. Note, this is in this demo environment, that payment that I just created actually doesn't appear in this list, but you can see here, we do have some payments already here that are pending an approval. So what we need to do is we now need to approve these. So there's a few ways to do this, but the easiest way is to select the payment that you wish to approve, tick the box and click approve. And that payment has been approved. Prior to approving, you may wish to review the details of the payment that you're approving, particularly if someone else has created it. So again, I just click on the payment and it brings me to the details screen. I can have a look at all of the information here and I can click on approve. Once I've approved, I do get a confirmation message saying that the payment has been approved and the status changes to active. If you need to reject the payment for any reason, you'll be prompted to select a reason for rejection. So we'll click on reject. Okay, and I can choose from one of these options, incorrect details entered, unrecognised or duplicate or other, and I can type in a message there and click OK. And that will reject the instruction and send it back to the original creator for editing. Creating a periodic payment from an existing payment template is almost an identical process. However, some of the information will be pre-populated rather than you having to manually enter it all as we just showed. So to create a periodic payment from a template, from the screen again, we click on New. However, this time I would choose Creation Method, Use Payment Template. Now this screen looks a little bit different in this demonstration environment, but the actions are essentially the same. You could either search for a template from your existing set of templates in Transactive Global, or you could select from the list that's provided and click OK. Again, in this environment, nothing happens, but what the system will do for you as a customer, it would then take you to the Create a Periodic Domestic Payment screen that we were on before, and it will allow you to continue filling in the details for that payment. However, some of the information, as I mentioned, from that template will be pre-filled into the relevant fields on that screen. We'll have a look at two final things about periodic payments before we move on to our next topic today. Edit or delete. So to edit or delete an existing periodic payment, we select an active payment from the list. And you can see here in the control bar, we have the options to edit or delete. If I click on edit, you can see here I'm allowed to edit the recurrence details. I can also edit the beneficiary details. So again, I can add or remove, or I can change the amount. Once I'm happy with the details that I've edited, I can review and submit. And again, that will change the instruction to a pending approval status. I also have the option to delete an existing schedule. So again, I can click on the delete button. This will just confirm to me that I'm deleting the active periodic payment and it will stop the generation of further payment instructions. Do I wish to continue? Yes. Okay. And you can see that that payment is no longer active. It's been approved or rejected. Reporting on periodic payments is also available via an audit report. From the periodic payment screen that we're on here, I can select a payment from the list. So we'll choose an active one. And you can see the reports menu here. Clicking on the drop-down allows me to choose the periodic payment audits report. That's going to automatically generate a CSV file. The CSV format report will show the audit history of the selected periodic payment. I'll just bring that up on screen quickly so you can see. It's okay, that's not going to display, that's fine. Moving on to our next topic now, so that's periodic payments. The next one is brief, but an important update, particularly for anyone joining us today from New Zealand, or if you simply make payments from a New Zealand bank account. In May 2023, New Zealand introduced 7-day domestic processing for local payments to and from New Zealand banks. In ANZ Transactive Global, this means that in addition to business days, Monday to Friday, New Zealand payments can be scheduled to process on non-business days, defined as a Saturday, Sunday, or any New Zealand national public holiday. To illustrate this, I'm in the payments menu already from being in periodic payments. I'm going to click on Create a Payment. I'm then going to click on domestic payment. And in the accounts menu, I'm going to select a New Zealand dollar funding account, which we have here. I'm going to choose domestic as my payment method. And then I'm going to choose, the value date. So as Transactive Global does, it defaults to today. I'm going to choose later. And as you can see, Saturday and Sunday are selectable, as are some upcoming public holidays such as Christmas Day and Boxing Day. So in this instance, I can select Christmas Day as the processing day, and I can continue to fill out the information as required to set up this payment and submit it for processing. Any New Zealand payments that are processed on a non-business day are typically processed the same day and usually within a few hours. It is important to note, however, that the existing payment cutoff time continues to apply regardless of processing day. Moving on to our next topic, the next in-depth feature we will look at today is something called PayTo agreements. And this is the newest addition to the payments menu in ANZ Transactive Global. If you haven't heard of PayTo or don't know what it is, it's a new industry-wide digital payment solution in Australia that will provide a modern alternative to traditional direct debit. It does this by processing transactions as real-time 24/7 OSCO payments, and by giving both parties full visibility and control over the arrangement through online banking, as we're able to demonstrate. For general information on PayTo for both businesses and individuals, we recommend going to the PayTo website, which is payto.com.au, or searching for PayTo. PayTo works by allowing businesses to initiate or pull payments from their customers' bank accounts through the establishment of what is called a PayTo agreement. The business, commonly referred to as the payee, merchant, or biller, and I will use these terms interchangeably today, will create an agreement with you, known as the payer, for a recurring or one-off payment for goods or services. Before the payee can debit your account, the agreement requires authorization in line with your existing transactive approval model, for example, 1 or 2 to approve. Currently, ANZ Transactive Global provides the capability to authorize and securely manage payment mandates received from billers with actions such as approve, decline, pause, resume, or cancelling the agreement available to complete based on individual user entitlements. Please note that PayTo in ANZ Transactive Global is available today, however your organisation may not be enabled yet. We do expect to provision access to all eligible ANZ Transactive Global customers in early 2024. However, you can contact your ANZ representative to get it now. Now let's see what PayTo agreements look like in ANZ Transactive Global. You will find it in the payments menu, and you'll see here there's a menu for PayTo agreements. All PayTo agreements that have been issued by a payee to you, and confirming again that you will be the payer in this scenario, will be shown here on the PayTo agreements screen. At a glance, you can see who has issued the mandate, along with the description, status, amount, and frequency. You can also see whether it needs to be actioned by a certain date and who from your organisation has approved it. Let's view an agreement. This opens the PayTo agreement details screen. This is an active agreement, which you can tell by this header message. Going down the screen, we can see some of the following information is available in this agreement. It tells me who the payee is, description, which is a reference specified by the payee, status, or whether the agreement is active or not, the amount, the frequency, start and end dates, your payment reference, the debit account details, or where the money comes out from, which account, who the payer or account holder is, first and last payment and amount dates, auto renewal details, include indicating if the agreement will automatically renew once the current term ends, and the agreement type, which identifies if the payment is fixed, variable, usage-based, or includes a balloon amount. As you can see, PayTo is data-rich and more transparent for both parties than the current direct debit process. The first action that I would be taking as a payer would be to approve an agreement that has been sent to your organisation by a payee. Let's click on one of the agreements to have a look. You can see here that we have a header message telling us that we've received this PayTo agreement from Green Private Limited, and that for this agreement to take effect, it must be approved by a certain date and time. It must be approved by that date and time for it to take effect and go into and be processed. After reviewing the details, again, all the information that we saw on the previous screen, I can click Authorize if I'm happy with that. And it asks me, are you sure you want to approve? So click on Approve. And that now goes into a pending approval status. This demonstration site is set up with dual approval, so it's moved into a partially authorised status. You can also notice that the number of authorisations column has updated to 1 to reflect that as well. This will remain in a pending approval status until all authorisations are obtained. For final authorisation, a second user needs to come in and click Authorise. This second approval requires a token, similar to any other payment. This can be done using either your ANZ digital key or physical security token, as shown in this example. Once digitally signed, click on Approve, and it will tell me that my PayTo agreement with Green Private Limited is now active. See here, the status has changed. You can come into PayTo agreements or the screen at any time to view, edit, pause, restart, or cancel an agreement. Select the agreement you wish to view, and you will see the PayTo agreement details screen. This screen is similar to before, but for an active agreement, it will also include last payment details, and the control bar will have edit, pause, cancel, edit, pause, cancel agreement options. There is also information in the view agreement history to see information such as when it was received, approved, or modified. If I click Edit, this allows me to edit the payment reference, which again is my reference, or the funding account. Clicking Save Changes amends the agreement and places it into a pending approval status, pending second authorization, and you would then be returned to the PayTo agreement screen. A unique PayTo agreement feature not available with current direct debits is the ability to temporarily pause an arrangement. By clicking into the agreement and clicking on Pause, it provides me with a Pause PayTo agreement pop-up, which explains what pausing means. So basically, it's temporarily holding the agreement until I unpause it. I need to click I understand and clicking on Pause the agreement. If an agreement is in a pause status, I can come back and click Resume when I'm ready for that agreement to resume. When an agreement is in an active, pending, or approval or pause status, an agreement can also be cancelled. So again, I can come into the agreement I wish to cancel, click the Cancel button, talks about what that means. I click I understand, click on Cancel, and that agreement updates to cancelled. The biller also gets a notification or can see that this agreement is paused or cancelled depending on the action that you've taken. One final feature for PayTo agreements that I'll show you today is the ability to create an email notification that will advise when an agreement is pending authorization or has been modified, paused, or cancelled. To set this up, you would simply go into your user settings menu and click on Notifications and Alerts and select the ones you would like to receive. So I come in here, click Notifications and Alerts, and you can see there are two notifications available here, one for pending authorization and one for other updates. So I can toggle those on and click Save. That concludes PayTo agreements. If you're interested in being able to receive and manage PayTo agreements for your business in ANZ Transactive Global, please contact your ANZ representative to find out more. Mindful of time, we just have one final topic to go through today, and that's a quick look at the various payment reports available in Transactive Global. The simplest way to access these is to go into current or past payments, select the payment or payments that I wish to report on, and click on the reports button. You can see here that there's 3 reports available. Payment summary report. This shows abridged payment header details and a single line that summarizes each instruction in the payment. The payment detail report shows complete payment header information, as well as full details for each instruction in the payment. So similar to the summary, but with more detail. The final one is the payment audit report, showing the payment date, type, status, and totals, as well as users who have created and approved or modified the payment. Clicking on any of these brings up a dialog box where you can specify some report parameters. Note that this demonstration has a couple of variances to what you will see. Report format, you can actually choose from CSV, PDF, or Excel. Report language, you can choose from English or simplified Chinese. Reporting coding depends on the data that you can see that is stored in the file and is only available if you've chosen CSV. The report name or description are both optional fields for your own reference. Clicking OK generates the report. And you see that there's a sample of a payment order report that's generated. So again, really easy to do. That notification, that also goes into the notification center, which is the bell icon here. So there'll be a notification that pops up. It also populates into the report center in the main menu. All right, that just about concludes our session today. I'd like to thank you again for taking the time out of your busy day to join us, and I hope you found today's session informative. A reminder that should you wish to revisit any of the topics or share the session with your colleagues, a video recording, as well as the Q&A, will be added to ANZ Digital Services Help. You can get to ANZ Digital Services Help either by scanning the QR code that's currently on screen or by clicking on the Help icon next time you are signed into ANZ Transactive Global. Let me just quickly show you how to do that. Just wrap that screen back. There's a Help icon whenever you sign into Transactive Global. Clicking on that brings you to ANZ Digital Services Help. I can scroll down, or I can use the search bar that you saw at the top of that screen, but here I can click on Training Webinars, and I can register for an upcoming webinar session. And here are the sessions with the register link for each one. I can also see here all of the sessions that we have previously run. So when I was talking about the payments webinar before, so we ran one earlier this year, I can click on that, I can watch the recording, and I can also view the Q&A. ANZ Digital Services Help also contains step-by-step instructions for all features in ANZ Transactive Global, including the ones we've been through today, such as payments and PayTo agreements. On screen again is our upcoming schedule of training sessions. The next one will be on the 6th of December, and it will be on service requests. Again, registration can be completed by clicking on the registration link in ANZ Digital Services Help. That concludes today's session. Once again, thank you for joining today's ANZ Transactive Global webinar, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you.